Welcome in to Hold My Banner. I'm sure you weren't expecting this voice because I just decided to crash the party. So Kasey Hudson now crashing in on Ountae Campbell's swaggy set. Thanks for having me. My feet are not swinging from the ground, but I'm sure you guys know that Hold My Banner goes down Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 2 p.m. All things hoops, but more specifically, sticking to the Celtics. I'm psyched that you let me crash your party today.
Hey, we're glad to have you. I think the Celtics fans are tired of hearing from me and Travis, so this will be a nice change of pace.
Until I say the wrong thing and they hop in and say, do not bring her back. I'm going to try to do right by everybody throughout this conversation. So no, for real, fairly psyched to get a chance to hang out with you. But when we were talking about where we were going to take this conversation for Hold My Banner, it has to start with the Celtics. And the biggest question mark, and we've talked about it on Boston's Under the Chat and a number of other shows here on Nesson, is what to do with this offseason. Because you want to come into the following season and be prepared and feel confident without the pressure of, okay, we're going to take things back to back. Clearly, that has left the table. So the first thing that jumps off the page to you with this offseason conversation?
Get younger. That's the big thing that I've been on lately. Is this team is sneakily old. They were like the second team as far as average age per minutes in the entire NBA, which is a problem because when you look at the teams that are around them, you see the Clippers, you see the Bucks, you see the Phoenix Suns, who are three teams who are at the point where they're looking to blow it up. Giannis is obviously looking at possibly leaving Milwaukee and having a new trade partner with him going somewhere else. Phoenix Suns have fired 3 head coaches over the last 3 years. We know that they're looking for a new trade partner for Kevin Durant as well. And then the Los Angeles Clippers, after they've kind of flamed out in that round against the Denver Nuggets, people are really worried about their direction. A team that I've been heavy on, blow it up for a couple of years now. Hopefully they're in that phase where they're looking to make some change because as the oldest team by average minute per minute is something that they need to do. So I'm with the Celtics right now. It's probably time to find a way to get younger.
Oh, see, I never even thought about that perspective, but I think it's important because, I mean, yes, we say that about a number of professional leagues at the moment, that the game is changing, but I think because of the talent, I think because of how young guys are delivering, a lot of professional leagues are gearing towards getting younger, getting faster, and then figuring it out from there. So where would you put the Celtics in the category of, like, how quickly can they get younger and still matter?
I mean, that's a tough question. I think the second apron has really made some issues for them, some hindrances for them. It's been one of those things where it really handcuffs them to kind of staying with the team that they have. Really,
for some time.
It's going to take some, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty talking about the 25% and aggregating contracts and all that other stuff. I won't bore people with that. But, it's one of those things where they have to figure out a way to get under that second apron. And once they do, I think this is a team that could get younger really quickly. They do have 2 draft picks in this upcoming draft, 28th and 32nd, which can be valuable to a team, that good. Honestly, if they can package those picks together, which they do have the possibility of doing, and shipping them off to a team that's a little bit earlier in the 20s, maybe later in the teens, they could be a team that can get some guys or a guy, I'm thinking of 2 specifically, that can help them out immediately.
Okay, so we can bring things a little bit more acute. Didn't mean to put you on the spot with all of that, but I was ready to be brought up to speed. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So when we're thinking of the offseason, 2 things pop out to me more specifically. The unfortunate injury to Jason Tatum.
Yes.
The reality of when you're going to potentially get him back. And do you fill that void, or do you count on Jaylen Brown being like the spearheaded leader of this team, night in, night out, 20-plus points regardless, because that was the expectation and the fulfillment from Tatum, and now you're going to count on one guy, not 2 faces, to get that job done.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've had to reach out to a lot of different fans that are, die hard, they're rolling with the Celtics no matter what, fans who are like, the ship is sinking, get off, you know what I mean? Different diasporas and different voices, but I had to hear them all out, and, after listening to everybody, I think this is one of those things where you let JB be JB next year.
Okay.
Hopefully he's fully healthy after, dealing with the partially torn meniscus at the end of the season there. But hopefully he has the opportunity in this upcoming season to show Celtics Nation who he really is. Because I think a lot of people don't really understand how great of a player that he truly is. And that's a testament to how great Jason Tatum has been, how great the rest of the team has been around Jaylen Brown. But I think he's a top. He could be, in my opinion, he could be a first-team All-NBA player if he had his own team, if he had the pressure of having to live up every single night. We saw what he did in Game 5, and I think he could do more of that if he was on a team that wasn't as equipped as the Celtics are.
Okay, so, I mean, stop me if I'm being dramatic.
Okay.
This brings me to a little bit of like a little brother situation. Like this city is so Jason Tatum when it comes to watching Celtics basketball that sometimes, you know, you're not looking at a Jaylen Brown and his full potential until Tatum can only put up so many minutes or so many points in a game and situation.
Right.
Because I remember some of the postseason chatter last year pertaining to Jaylen Brown and him kind of showing up and having these fire moments, but that was the only time that I really heard his name. If I'm being honest, being new to the market, I've heard his name a fraction of how I've heard Jason Tatum. So I've never really heard of them kind of in parallel to one another.
Yeah.
I have more so heard it as like Jason Tatum, everything, and then, oh, by the way, let's tap in Jaylen Brown to be a hero.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about a dude who won Finals MVP last year, won Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year, which every time he did it, it was a shock to everybody. We knew he deserved it, but it was like, oh, wow, they really gave him this award over Jason Tatum. So that lets you know that all the voters who have the opportunity to vote for that thought he had a great playoff run, which he did. He had a lot of great moments. Like you said, the moment where you hit the game winner against the Pacers was a moment. He had a lot of great moments throughout that playoff series, but he was just that consistent light for the Celtics. Every single time they needed something big, he showed up. He did that. And he even did that this year, hobbling alone. They needed him to show up for them in Game 5. And here in Boston, in TD Garden, for the city of Boston, he went out there and put on a show and did what he needed to for his brother, Jason Tatum, and like I said, for this city of Boston. If you're looking at him to be a guy who's going to go out there and say, oh, you know, I'm better than Tatum, I got to do this, I got to do that, and I'm going to put up 30 every night, he knows that's not his role, and that's what makes him a champion. He understands that him and Tatum are better when they work together versus having a Shaq and Kobe where it's, oh, it's my team, it's my team, it's my team. They don't have that kind of dynamic. They have the dynamic of, we're going to do this together. And so, yes, seeing him by himself this year is going to be a challenge, and we're going to get to find out who Jaylen Brown really is. But you're asking a guy who is 22 a night this year, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That's great numbers for a team that was second in the East.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're calling him a number 2. A lot of people are willing to say that he's a number 2. I wouldn't be willing to say that, 1A, 1B, because they do pick each other up on different nights. You know, for that to be a number 2 guy on the second best team in the East, a team that we thought, if healthy, should win the NBA championship, that's a pretty good player to me.
All right, well, you sold me on that, which just brings us to the bigger question. There's been this whole tank or just kind of roll with what you got situation. And of course, the biggest thing that sticks out to me is Porzingis for a number of reasons.
Okay.
Because it can maybe bring and add some money to a crippled cap situation. And I say maybe in a very small percentage after what you broke down for me. But considering the health, considering the fact that like he said it on May 17th, he doesn't know what's going on in his system right now, which could be very frustrating to somebody. But maybe some sun and some time off and some rest will help him get back up to par. If that's not the case, you're taking a kind of a risk on someone, and you already dealt with a team that's deep, a team that should have had a deeper run in the postseason, but health kind of fractured them in a number of ways. Yeah,
I mean, Kristaps is at the, towards the, I wouldn't say the end of his career, but he's on the back half. He's on the back 9 of his career at this point. Look, I love Kristaps Porzingis. I think he did a lot of great things last season for this Boston Celtics team, and even the push that he gave them in the games like Game 2 of the NBA Finals, where he went out and he showed up and he got blocks and he made shots and he did KP things. We appreciate him here in Boston for everything that he did during that championship run. Which I didn't appreciate was the fact that, he wasn't feeling well and all this other stuff, but Jaylen Brown played on a torn meniscus. Drew Holiday, who wasn't the biggest shot maker or anything, changed a lot of games with his energy, and he's playing with a hurt hamstring and a mallet finger on his shooting hand. You know what I'm saying? So he was dealing with a lot of stuff. A lot of these guys were dealing with a lot of stuff. That's how it is in the NBA at this point in the season. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's not healthy. I know we talk about teams being healthier than others, but everybody's banged up in one way or another. The fact that he didn't give me a game is frustrating because we knew that this was probably going to be the last year for KP in a Boston Celtics jersey coming into the season. So for him to go out the way that he went, it didn't do Brad Stevens any favors. It doesn't do Boston Celtics Nation any favors. And it's a little frustrating when you have to see a guy that you know can do some great things. I know he can, but it's going to make some of those GMs question, is he a guy that's going to stay healthy, which has always been a question of his, and he didn't show the ability to play through injury or play through sickness, which is a frustrating process that Brad is going to have to navigate.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, maybe something, I don't want to call it positive, that came from seeing him not being able to register into many games is seeing some of the younger guys that had the potential to kind of start getting those reps in. And I mean, the more reps you get at that level,
yeah,
that exhale told me a lot more.
Yeah.
Whose name have you been shouting from the mountaintops to get that chance?
No, I mean, I thought I would have liked to see Torrey Craig a little bit more throughout that Knicks, and not a younger guy. You know, I would like to see Baylor Shireman, who is a younger guy, get another opportunity in there, you know, because Sam Hauser was having some up and down playoff moments, so I'd love to see him get some opportunity over Sam Hauser at some times. Like I said, Torrey Craig to get some opportunity just to see if he was going to bring some energy and all this other stuff. I think it took Joe Mazzulla too long to realize that KP wasn't going to be able to help us out during this series. And, you know, it's one of those things where Luke Cornett actually got the opportunity. In Game 5, he had the 7 blocks.
Yeah.
And those 7 blocks, you know, probably got him paid, you know, this summer, which also, once again, doesn't do the Boston Celtics many favors.
Yeah. Well, okay, you dropped a nugget in there saying Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're wearing the GM hat.
Yeah.
Your Boston Celtics team is healthy. Mm-hmm. You're not crippled by cap space.
Yeah.
What do you do this offseason? Because I'm not trying to stir the pot, but something I've heard a lot was they didn't feel like the team was managed accordingly, especially minutes, and just kind of being better at making adjustments and strategizing against good teams. So what do you do if you're the GM of this team? Yeah,
you know, if I'm Brad Stevens, I'm keeping Joe Mazzulla. And it's not because Joe Mazzulla did the best job. You know, he's not, you know, adverse from having critique or criticism or anything like that. We all get it and we all deserve it. And he definitely deserves some criticism in these moments because just like a team that we're going to talk about here in a second with the Knicks, you know, they shot a lot of threes to end games where they were up 20, and that is a problem when they're not going in. You know what I mean? There was opportunities when you have downhill superstars with the Jason Tatum, with the Jaylen Brown, guys who are, you know, able to attack the rim and put pressure on the defense and force people to foul. There should have been opportunities for them to get to the free throw line, make Cat and, you know, Mitchell Robinson have to work and do that type of stuff at the end of the game, but they didn't do it. And so that's on Joe. And that's on him being, you know, a little buddy-buddy with some of those guys and being nice and telling them how great they are. In those moments, he has to be able to say, hey, look, you're a great player, but you're not making great plays right now. Get downhill and do the things that we need to do to finish this game out the right way. But if I'm them, I'm saying I want to keep you here because he does know how to navigate the media here in Boston, which is a huge part of it.
Yeah,
he does know how to keep his superstars happy and keep managing egos, which is a huge part of basketball as a whole. As a head coach, you have to be able to manage egos, and he's done a fantastic job with this Boston Celtics team. So I think Joe has a lot of great aspects about him, his defensive intensity, his ability to rah-rah, his ability to keep this team together. And as far as I know, this team is going to be together as far as JB and JT are together, right? This team is going to stay together. And if Joe's your leader, then you're going to have a good opportunity to win every single night.
All right. See, some people, I mean, the contrast is funny, too, because sometimes it's like he's a great motivator, he's a great rah-rah, but it's almost like that's all he brings to the table. And then on the other spectrum of it, I mean, look, I'm for keeping the guy for one main reason.
Yeah.
If this does turn into a more explosive situation in the offseason, need be. Say that the cap crippling is just way too deep for this team to really make it matter being the roster over the next 3 years, because you look at things in totalities of 3 and 5 years when you're looking at your roster. So say things do have to implode, you want to try to maintain as much stability as possible.
Right.
And trying to bring in a different coach, trying to figure out what their culture is, trying to figure out the pieces at the same time, being handicapped by money, you know, and how is your star star player, your new leader, your new main leader, going to respond to said coach? That's too many question marks for me. And if we haven't realized, I like to know as much as possible heading into situations.
Yes, you do. We know
so
that.
With that being said, I want to minimize the damage that could be done, and kind of just like, that's kind of how you encourage guys to come to your team also. I mean, it's a big conversation in a number of professional leagues right now. So I think that him being a master motivator, especially with how leagues are built these days, I think that is a drawing point to want to add people to the Celtics roster.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to want to play for this Celtics team because of Joe Mazzulla, because of Brad Stevens, because of Jason Tatum, because of Jaylen Brown. So if you can keep those four together, then I think the sky is the limit.
Okay, so we're not blowing it up. We're just shipping off some pieces.
Yeah.
Packaging and shipping a little bit. But one of the pieces that could get shipped, are you for it or against it? Derrick White is being tied to rumors and conversations of heading to the West Coast. We know you love the West Coast, Ountae, but do you love it enough to send Derrick White off?
You know, here's the thing. I love Derrick White, and I love what he's done for this Boston Celtics team, but for the right package, I would be willing to ship him off. The only issue that I have is, what are the Warriors going to help us out with? I just told you that this team has to get younger, and that team is as old as possible. Their money is tied up in Jimmy Butler and Steph and Draymond and all that other stuff. I mean, a Buddy Hield, you know, that's not really moving the needle for me. Jonathan Kuminga, you know, we got Jonathan Kuminga at home right here with Jaylen Brown, a way better version of him, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want a dollar store, Dollar General, 99-cent store, Five Below, whatever you want to call it, version of Jaylen Brown. I think Jonathan Kuminga is a really good player, but I don't think he fits the timeline.
Just compared him to Dollar General and Five Below.
I'm just saying, I don't think he fits the timeline.
Clearly, and not the patterns or anything else. The expense is low on that return. But that's a good point, because I think sometimes, and just, you know, I can only speak for myself with this, is that you hear Warriors, you know of a number of flashy names that have come and gone and currently reside on that roster, and immediately you're thinking, okay, something should be able to mesh here and make sense. But for me, it just goes back to the point of, like, chemistry is a big thing, buy-in is a big thing, and while the NBA is known for trying to do all this all-star flashy stuff with the roster, I think it bites a number of teams, and we've seen that in the trades that happened throughout this previous season. So I think that, I mean, he's sitting at $30.4 million of cap space that he's taken up, so it would depend on what pieces could come back for him, but tying him to the Warriors specifically, no. What's a team that you think ship off White, free up 30.4, and maybe just bring me somebody from, like, Target?
Yeah, if I'm looking at a team, once again trying to get younger, I probably try to send them back to San Antonio. You know, they have a lot of young prospects over there, a lot of young talent. You could probably get something back in return for them. You know, they're probably looking to accelerate their timeline now that they have De'Aaron Fox over there. They're going to get in that Giannis sweepstake. Maybe, you know, the Celtics end up getting in that trade deal, making it a multi-team deal, you know, something with Milwaukee, San Antonio, Boston, a couple of other teams. I could see that possibly happening. A
lot of avenues. Would you prefer a name, or would you prefer some prospects?
I want a name. Forget a prospect. I don't want picks. Picks, it doesn't mean much to the Boston Celtics right now. I would prefer a name. But, you know, a name that we do have to talk about after we come back from the break is a guy who won NBA MVP this year. We got to talk about that guy out there in OKC, and we'll come back and tell you all about him in a second here.
Back at it with Hold My Banner. Kasey Hudson and Ountae Campbell chatting all things hoops. And as Ountae alluded to, we got an MVP popping into the conversation. That would be SGA. Very emotional when it came to his speech and saying thank you to everyone, but more importantly, thanking his lady alongside him. But before we get into that, what'd you make of SGA kind of leading here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of obvious all year. You know, it was one of those things where this dude was just a phenomenal package on offense. I mean, he's averaged 32 points a game and 6 assists on 50% plus shooting. The only other person in NBA history ever to do that was Michael Jeffrey Jordan twice in his two of his MVP seasons. So it was one of those things where he's doing that on the offensive end, and we can speak about Jokic, and we'll definitely talk about him. But on the defensive end, he's a guy who's at the point of attack, getting steals, setting the tone for his team, uses his long arms and his length. He was there every single time that they needed him, making big shots, getting to the free throw line, which people will love to hate on. But there's been 70 MVPs in the NBA so far. 29 of them have shot more free throws than SGA. So, I hate the free throw merchant tag for him. He's a guy who's so good offensively. You cannot guard him. He has the strength, the speed, the quickness, the change of pace, the ability to score on all three levels. He's just dangerous. And he has aura, and he's just winning right now in life. Like you said, thanking all of his teammates, buying them Rolexes, thanking his wife, sending a sweet message to her as well, dropping his new first shoe with Converse. He's doing everything right on and off the court, and it's a congratulations to him. He deserves this award.
Yeah, overall good dude, or on the court, or on an AT&T commercial. I had a good laugh with that one, but I laugh at a lot of things. I found it interesting to throw this at you. Some of the top phrases that come up when associated with SGA.
Okay.
I warned Ountae about absolutely nothing. He's a mid-range god.
Yep.
You would approve this message?
I approve that message.
Okay. King of drawing fouls.
I did talk about that. He is a good foul baiter, a little bit of foul bait.
A little, okay. I mean, hey, everybody's got to have a flair to their game. Top notch at being unguardable.
Yeah, I just told you about that. 32 points a game, so it is what it is.
Right, and then team guy all around, which that makes it that much better for a guy like that to get the MVP.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the comparisons are coming between him and Joker, and you can probably break that down even further. But look, when you're talking about newer faces entering these conversations, I think it's better for the game as a whole. And then he was just so thankful. He's big on celebrating his team as much as he celebrates himself. At least that's what I got from his reception speech. And he even opened up by saying, sorry, I'm so dramatic. Like, you gotta appreciate and respect a guy who can just lean all the way in every aspect of his emotions, and the gratitude with everyone that helps get him here. And I think that's just gonna make him a better player, even skill-wise.
Yeah, and the thing that I was most surprised about this whole thing is that he got 79 first place votes, so 21 people thought that Joker should have won. I thought he was going to walk away with this a little. I thought this was going to be a little bit closer than it was. What I mean? I thought this MVP race was going to be a little bit closer. Just seeing the discourse online and knowing the things that Jokic does. I mean, he's averaging a triple-double, doing a lot of great things. What has been really surprising for me is that we haven't had an American-born superstar win MVP since 2018 when James Harden did it. I wanted to ask you, do you think this is kind of the end of that, Americans really dominating and being the guys at the top in the NBA?
Honestly, yes.
Ooh, spicy take, okay.
I know, you probably thought I was going to pause on that a little bit. But the only reason I go there is I take a business bird's eye view. And a lot of conversations on the business side that you're hearing around the NBA, around basketball as a whole, and stop me if I'm wrong for sure, is that they're trying to make sure, and this is also going down in the WNBA, they're trying to get more basketball opportunities and jobs here.
Yes.
But in order to do that, you're going to bring a lot of outside talent into the mix. And while you've got draft picks and draft abilities, I think that NIL is going to kind of create some issues there that's going to complicate contract negotiations. And then you've got, a different layer of need of money, of not desperacy, but gratitude with contracts. And you've got guys where they've got extremely humble beginnings in these other countries, and all they want is to suit up and shoot the ball. So that can end up bringing in just kind of like a layer of complexity as well as competition. And then, of course, you don't always want to be able to send players overseas because the game can pick up over there. In order to keep money in the pockets and continue to build the NBA economics, it's going to take leveling up the competition. So that's the only reason why I'm like, this could get a little interesting, and we can see it, kind of go hats off to a number of foreign players.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. The thing about the U.S. basketball system is like the club system is really just rolling out the basketball, playing games. You're not really learning the fundamentals of the sport anymore. Overseas, they really hone and teach because they're a little bit newer to basketball that you got to do these fundamental things right, and then everything else will take care of themselves. We talked about SGA, and he's had a lot of big moments, and he's, I think this is going to be a little bit of a runway, spoiler alert, for him to get maybe a couple of MVPs, maybe even get 2, maybe 3 throughout his career. Maybe we'll see. But, we talked about all of his big moments and all these things that he's done. And the second here, we're going to tell all of you about that big moment that happened last night with the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. When we come back, we'll talk about them, SGA versus Ant, and everything else in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals.
You are watching Hold My Banner here on Nessa Nation. Kasey and Ountae running through the hoop talk. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
Because we get to talk about what went down between the Knicks and the Pacers. Mm-hmm. We get to preview what should continue to go down between the Knicks and the Pacers. Hopefully you guys caught that. That's me alluding to which side I'm leaning on this. And then we also get to give one of our fellow colleagues just a little bit of heat.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be a family here at Nesson if we didn't hold each other accountable, but also completely run our colleagues through the mud by saying, Travis, what were you thinking?
I don't know what he was thinking, but this stat right here is insane. Look, since 1996-97, that was the year I was born, just in case anybody was wondering.
Oh my God, don't say that around me ever.
Teams that have trailed by 7+ in the final 50 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime in the playoffs are 4 and 1,702. We have 3 of those wins, and they're all this year from the Indiana Pacers. That is insane. What a place to be able to hit the we. I mean, a little humble there because I would have hit it with an all caps we and underlined and bolded it just to make sure that you really picked up on the fact 3 of those 4. Yeah.
Out of 1,000+, 1,700+. I'm sorry. I don't want to minimize that effort. But so a social media friend of a friend, Ashley Moss, was breaking down things between the Knicks and the Pacers, and I loved her take of it being like, hey, the Pacers are expected to push the pace, no pun intended, but what is it going to do to the Knicks in terms of are they going to try to readjust their game, or do they have the capability to force their opponent to play their game?
Right.
Because you're coming off of a round versus the Celtics that, health aside, they just had these fourth quarter blowouts, and that can add some air to your tires that don't really exist. That can make you think that you're capable of forcing your opponent to play your game, and now you have to play high tempo. So that was the expectation going into game 1. That basically rolled out to a sense, I would say, aside from the fact that Knicks were able to keep pace to pace in a sense, but at the end of the day, the clutch moments were in favor of the Pacers. Yeah,
I mean, it was a lot of actually what we saw between the Celtics and the Knicks series in game 1 and game 2. The Knicks were up. They decided that Cat and Jalen Brunson were just going to keep shooting threes.
Right.
They stopped going in. And Aaron Nesmith, I mean, if I walked away not saying his name at least once, I would be crazy, especially here in Boston. Everyone's out here super proud of him and his development and everything that he's done, but he's one of 6 players, I think it is, to make 6 threes in a quarter of a NBA playoff game, and he's the only player in NBA history to do it in the fourth quarter. He was just coming down on fire, making every single shot. Haliburton obviously put the nail in the coffin when he made the shot in overtime in regulation that we thought was to win the game.
Right.
But instead of having a size 15 or whatever he wished, if he would have had a size 14, he would have won the game, but he didn't. He ended up sending the game to overtime, doing the choking.
I was going to say, did you see the meme? And everyone's like, it was a little too early for that, a little too early. And I'm like, but the result is a result. Was it too early?
Yeah, and the Knicks fans were quick to remind everybody that the Pacers lost that series against the Knicks when Reggie Miller did the celebration. So it could be an omen or, a little spoiler alert for what we're going to get. But I know that you and I told Travis Thomas that the Pacers are going to win this series, and we're looking good right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that we are. And we're just going to make sure that that message gets relayed back to our favorite, the one and only Travis. But there was a number of reasons that I liked where the Pacers could take this. I think that most analysts, in terms of what I was hearing, the expectation was for this series was the fact that, are the Pacers just going to be that team that if they can't have that consistent, fast-paced, up-tempo play, if they were just going to basically die? And then where did their defense lie in terms of being able to kind of minimize what the Knicks can present so well? And that's where, okay, I get the gap there if you can be more of a complete team in terms of offense and defense, and that's where the Knicks were kind of held in a light over the Pacers, from what I heard. But if you can't keep up with a team, which Pacers didn't control it the entire game, but I think that sometimes that up-tempo can come in those final moments, and that's where they can steal games, and that's what we saw. So this is a team that I'm hoping going into game 2 can come out a bit faster in that sense. I'm hoping there can be some karma, kind of Pacers coming out to a faster start, yes, but also having more of a complete game, and just that fourth quarter comeback. I just want that to be on repeat against the Knicks as often as possible. Yeah,
it's one of those things where it was we were all questioning would they be able to slow down the Knicks, of course, but they didn't. I mean, Kat and Jalen Brunson combined for 78 points. You know, they got to their spots, they got whatever they wanted. Like I said, at the end of the game, they had some moments. There were some moments where Jalen Brunson was like, oh my God, this dude is so clutch. But there was also moments in overtime he was super quiet. Kat hit some big shots once again in regulation, and he kind of quieted down in overtime as well. They figured it out late enough in the game, but they're going to have to figure it out a lot earlier if they plan on continuing to win. Now, I do want to talk about the other series that we have, the Thunder. Well, we've given a lot of love to SGA, but we got to talk about, you know, what he's going up against with Anthony Edwards. How do you feel about this series? Because Hold My Banner fans haven't heard who you think is going to win this one, and we want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I'm sad that the Thunder got out to a 1-0 lead. That's what I'm thinking. But I already kind of had my reservations on this because you've got a Thunder team that's pretty high octane when it comes to their offensive abilities. And actually, I think I talked to Travis about this. My biggest concern was Minnesota being overly defensive and not being able to kind of go toe-to-toe with getting points of their own so that they can make this game, like not this game, but this series their own. And that's what I feel like I saw. You didn't even put up 100 points. And I hate when people call the Timberwolves the Timber Puppies, but like that is what happened. I unfortunately saw a bit of a crumble in a number of ways, and to see the margin in which they were able to just top Minnesota, then I think that they're going to have to reevaluate some things and some adjustments. The capability is there. They were only sitting 6th for scoring offense in comparison to the Thunder at 3, so that's not a massive difference. But in the postseason, it can feel like the margin is just like tremendous. Oh man, I mean, yeah, especially when you're going to be nitpicking everything because Julius Randle has had a fantastic playoff run throughout this year. But when in Game 1, he started off hot. He had about 24 points in the first half or whatever he had. But in the second half, he was held to 8 points, 5 turnovers in the second half, 1 assist. Those are the moments where it's like, it's about closing. We just talked about that Knicks and Pacers game and, you know, how closing the game matters so much. They didn't come out right in the second half. Anthony Edwards knows he has to be better. He knows he has to show up, especially when you're talking about the boogeyman and the Grim Reaper and all these things that we've called him at this point. You know, he has to be able to take over games and do that on the offensive end. I've been telling Travis that I thought, you know, there's been some question marks about whether he could be a guy who's going to do a 40-point night, you know, per game kind of night. You're going to need that from Anthony Edwards at some point if we're going to crown him the face of the league and the king that we're trying to crown him to be. He does a lot of things on the defensive end, and I don't want to discredit that. And he does a lot of things from a leadership perspective that I don't want to question. He's only 23 years old. He's a young player. But if we're going to give him that title that we're trying to put him on and put him on that pedestal, he has to be able to come out, and we have to see, hey, 40 a night, 35 a night. We know that we're getting that from you from a playoff series when you talk about stars like Jason Tatum, Jalen Brunson, SGA.
Jokic. We've seen that from those guys. We want to be able to see that from Anthony Edwards, and I think this is a series that he has to do it if he wants to win.
He has to. You can't have one guy putting up 20-plus points, and more importantly, Kings earn their crowns in the postseason. So that's going to be a big move in order for the Timberwolves to have a chance at going toe-to-toe with the Thunder. And it was a little deflating, too, to think that, like, I feel like they had a pretty decent second quarter.
Yeah.
You saw more spark, you saw more hope, and you saw a little bit more balance going on for them. And then, yes, it's hard to carry that momentum from the second to the third quarter with the break in between, but I thought that they could have pulled on that in a momentous way, and that's where they dropped the least points. That's where they came back into the game, and the Thunder just had their number, and that was frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and the Thunder they continued to play. They just played like a team the whole way. I mean, Jalen McDaniels came out and made shots for the Timberwolves early on, and I thought the Thunder were going to lay down, you know what I mean? Because they were at their crib. I've seen it happen before where it's like, all right, we're at the crib, we didn't get it going tonight, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But they ended up taking that challenge and just kept playing and kept playing and kept playing. A lot of it a credit to the MVP, SGA. He did a lot of great things for this team, but Jalen Williams, he's been a consistent light for them. He's been able to do a lot of good things for them on the offensive end and on the defensive end. A game where he was 7 for 18 from the field, not the greatest, but he had 5 steals in this game. He's been able to show up for his team in whatever ways that they've needed. He's got a great running mate in SGA, but he's a star in his own right, a budding star at that, an all-star this year, so it's hard for me to say budding. But, you know, he's doing a lot of great things for this team, and if he continues to do that, this Timberwolves team is in trouble. I do want to ask you before we move on. I need a prediction for Game 2 for both of these series, Eastern Conference and Western Conference. Let's start with the East.
Okay, starting with the East, what was it, 138, 135 last night?
Yeah.
I think that these two teams can continue to be a little bit on the higher scoring end.
Yep.
Is this Game 2?
Game 2.
Score prediction?
Yep.
I'm feeling like a 118. 118 to like 120. I want to say like 121, 122.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's winning? Pacers? Knicks? Come on.
I think I'm being biased here because I want the Pacers to just
so
punish
Pacers going up 2-0.
Pacers are going up 2-0.
Okay, and then what about in the Western Conference? What do we got with that series?
The Western Conference, yeah, that 88-114 destroyed me. I need to see the Timberwolves at least pick up 100 points.
Okay.
Even though, again, one of the key things heading into this was, okay, Timberwolves have the ability to be more defensively structured, defensively minded. I think this one, I'm going to go 95-98 Timberwolves.
Okay. 95. Okay. We'll take that.
Not too bad?
Nah, that's not too bad. But when we come
Do we write this down to throw it at
throw it up? Yeah, we'll throw it up at Trav. Yeah, we definitely should. But when we come back, we're going to take a look at some of the outfits from some of these stars that we were just talking about. And, of course, we got to look at Caitlin Clark taking on the WNBA champions this weekend. We'll get you ready for that.
Welcome back into Hold My Banner here on Nesson. Kasey and Ountae with the hoop conversation. I hope that doesn't get old because I plan on continuing to crash Ountae and Travis's party, but fun conversations all around. We got into Celtics offseason. We got into that MVP conversation. Game 1's out of the way. Game 2, expectations. But what do we got coming up next? Oh,
we got a fun game for you, Kasey. I don't know if you're ready for this, but we got Wicked or Kick It. Bow, bow, bow. And I first got to show love to the MVP, of course. We got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a fit that he wore in Game 1 against the Timberwolves. Shout out to League Fits for this photo. Kasey, Hudson. How do you feel about this outfit?
The sweater is giving regal. The front cut jeans, very 90s.
Yeah.
I would have liked a different shoe because it could be the photo.
Yeah.
But I'm getting very off-white, yellowish tones. You got the white tee under the regal sweater, the front cut jeans, which is 90s, and then you couldn't even give me like a sick shoe.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking for something a little sicker in the kick department.
That's fair. It's those are his Shea ones or SGA ones, whatever.
His
new Converse shoes, the peanut butter, the first colorway that he ever released. So he's trying to put on, and he had a good game in these shoes. So I'll give him, I'll be nice to him. But if you could give this a wicked or kick it, is it wicked nice or are you kicking it to the curb?
You know what? Because of the game that he had, I'm going to say it's wicked nice.
Okay.
Because I feel like one of these articles of clothing will be in repeat to make sure that the game stays sharp. So I'll give it a wicked.
Okay, look, I'm going to be nice to you, SGA, because you just won MVP. But, this is a fit that I probably would have worn in high school. And I don't know if we want fashion advice from high school Ountae. I was rocking the flat top back then.
We should have had production give us a side-by-side. I see why you held on to that information.
Yeah. I couldn't let you walk away with that one, Kasey. But yeah.
I wore suspenders in middle school. Nobody's asking me what's what.
Look, I'm gonna give this one. It's a 24. It's a 2014 fit for Ountae, so I'm gonna go kick it. I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a kick it. It's barely a kick it. I'm gonna give it a 6.87 out of 10.
You're not gonna kick it. You're just gonna push it to the side.
Yeah. All right. What about this guy, Anthony Edwards? Shout out to Luke Fish for this photo as well. He wore this one in game 1 against his adversary, SGA. What do you feel about this one, Kasey Hudson?
Well, besides the shiniest legs in the world, I have some qualms with this outfit.
What do you mean? What don't you like about it?
All right, AE, I'm just gonna come off with it. This is lazy. It's the postseason, okay?
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a sneaker collection to try to have a little bit more pep in your step or like make a little bit more of an effort, and that's gonna go all around. The shiny legs aside, you look like you're going to practice. Like you're not a big postseason matchup. I can't even tell if the hat is straightforward, which would really stress me out. And then being on the phone is one thing. Making eye contact with the media, I get it. It is stressful.
Yeah.
But like you're wearing all black, and it's not even in a statement way. Like how you're telling a team that you're about to send them to their funeral. I'm catching none of those vibes from this. This is lazy.
You know what I get from this fit?
Lazy.
In West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground is where I spent most of my days.
It's the hat.
He looks like Will Smith, dog, and
He does.
And I can't rock with it, and so that's why the shiny. He's moisturizing his legs. Good skin care, all this other stuff. I don't know why you hate it.
But he looks like he just ran to the parking lot and remembered that he has a game to play. That's foul.
Yeah, he looks like
a little bit harder.
I ain't gonna lie. We know about what he does in his personal life, and right here he looks like a bad baby daddy. That's all I'm gonna say about it. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm gonna say about it. And we gonna move on. All right. Now, what about this one?
So he's getting kicked.
Yes, he's getting kicked. Yeah,
besides 100%. The commentary kick.
He's getting the kick. What about this one? Tyrese Haliburton. He wore this one to his game 1 game against the Knicks. Shout out to League Fix and shot by BX Fredo for this fit in this picture. Kasey Hudson, how do you feel about this one?
Haliburton. I have some mixed feelings about this one.
Uh-oh.
Only because it looks so New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of misrepresenting what I need to see from clutch Haliburton. I need to see something that reps your team hard or represents you a bit harder. And this just feels so I want to see him in the back of a Jennifer Lopez music video. And I hate it.
And it's funny that you said that because I was literally thinking Ja Rule. What's love?
Right.
Got to do.
This is Tyrese from the block. Right.
Jenny from Tyrese from the block.
You can't show up like this considering the matchup that you were going into. Again, foul.
Oh man! So it's a kick it for you.
Yeah.
Can I get a score? Can I get a score?
A score?
Yeah. Well, out of 10, what do you think this is?
Yikes. I'm going to give him a 4.
Oh, Jesus Christ, a 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, is it still that cold in New York?
Yeah, I mean, it's cold here in Boston. We know we're going through.
No. Boston lives in a planet of its own when it comes to weather.
We're going through nor'easter right now, and I'm finding out quick that this Boston weather is not nice.
It's a lie.
But what is nice is this fit. I do like this fit a lot, actually, from Tyrese Haliburton. He's got the butters on, you know what I'm saying? He's got the baggy jeans. He pulled up to New York, walk in your trap, take over your trap. I love this fit from Tyrese Haliburton. Funny stat about not funny, cool stat about Tyrese Haliburton.
Not funny.
He's 12 for 14 this season on go-ahead or tying shots within 2 minutes of the game ending. And he's 4 for 4 this year within 10 seconds of the game. So
that clutch gear.
He
knows how to get out of neutral.
He knows how to get out of it. So I got to give him a wicked on this one. Wicked nice. It's wicked nice. I know we're doing the Boston slang on this New York fit.
Yeah, it's a wicked no for me.
It's wicked nice, B.
A hot wicked no for me.
It's wicked nice, B, on this one. So, shout out to Tyrese Haliburton. I'm going to give this fit like I got to give it a 9.9 out of 10. He walked in there with the New York fit and he won. It's one of the highest scores that I've given on Wicked or Kick It, but I mean,
for Tyrese from the block,
he deserves it. He deserves it, and I always love a nice fitted hat.
I think I think your brain's getting a little foggy because of his performance.
You're probably right, but
and the shine on the jeans, that could be a little blinding.
You're completely right. But I do want to talk about a performance that I am excited to watch this weekend. We have Caitlin Clark versus Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart and Aaliyah Boston. Also, I have to mention her as well.
AB.
How do you think this game and this series or this game is going to play out? Do we have a little bit of maybe a finals preview in this one, Kasey?
I think after seeing the leap that the Fever took after the Olympic break last season, you saw a team trending in a really good direction.
Yeah.
And the only changes they made amplified this roster. So, as clutch as Clark is, it doesn't have to be all on Clark. They added the right veteran pieces, which I liked. Boston, she's sick.
Yeah.
She's been fun to watch. And then I always thought that, Mitchell being in the mix, they started to get a really good rhythm between her and Clark, and it's just it's wild.
Right.
When you start getting those kind of connections going on the court where it's say less and produce more, Clark and Mitchell have that, in my personal opinion. So I feel like they could take that next step. A little wobbly here and there sometimes. I think beginning of the WNBA season, which was just last week or whatnot,
Friday.
You saw about 4 or 5 double-digit contributing factors on that roster.
Yeah.
I just need to see that more consistently so that it's not always the Caitlin Clark show, which is a fun show. But if you're going to have a deep run, Liberty got humbled in the sense of always relying on Stewart. And that's why they had to kind of restructure, adjust so that they can bounce back against the Lynx when it came to the finals and then take over. So just having that more consistent depth, I think, matters. Yeah,
100%. I mean, them adding Natasha Howard, adding DeWanna Bonner this year, they expected a lot out of them, and they haven't shown that a lot just yet.
Yes.
Natasha Howard has been, really good for them, but DeWanna Bonner has been a little bit disappointing. As far as this game goes, I'm really excited to see this matchup between the bigs and the guards. It's one of those things where it kind of is like peering into the future a little bit of what, Sabrina and Stewie have done, winning the championship there in New York. It's like, hey, is Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark going to have an opportunity to win a championship or multiple championships for the Fever in the future? I think this is a game where the Fever are going to come out with a lot of energy, especially after coming off of that loss that they had in their last game. Obviously, they played tonight as we're recording this as well. But after coming off of that loss, they're looking for opportunities to snap back, get back in the rhythm, and show people that they are the team that they, people are pegging them to be. I have a lot of friends, who really, really are deep diving into the WNBA, and they're like, I can't see the Fever not winning a championship this year. And I'm like, whoa. whoa.
This year.
Caitlin Clark, year 2, Aaliyah Boston, year 3. You really think that they're going to be able to do this? And, people are really high on them. I have a friend that has a parlay bet on them as well to win the championship as well. So, people are putting a lot of stake into this Fever team. And if, we talk about narratives in the NBA, and if the NBA is scripted and all this other stuff, if the WNBA is scripted, then, obviously Caitlin Clark winning the championship or at least going to the finals would be a big deal. I wanted to ask you, which matchup are you more excited to watch? Breanna Stewart versus Aaliyah Boston, or Sabrina Ionescu versus Caitlin Clark?
Ooh. I'm going to say Boston because you're talking about a matchup that can get pretty gritty between the two. AB's got to sometimes turn up that dog. Yeah. And while Caitlin Clark will do it, it's not, in my personal opinion, it's not that natural. I think it's more of her skills speak for herself. But the whole situation that went down between Clark and Reese and whatnot, AB kind of had a funny post-game presser about it that was just kind of I'm in it because it's my girl and da-da-da-da. So just kind of having that extra grit, I feel that one can get a really into the weeds between matchup wise. Yeah. But where I do get a little nervous when it comes to this matchup is you've got Natasha Cloud. Yeah. And you're talking about another layer to a ferocious Liberty team that's going to try to make a statement, because it was can New York finally do it? Can they finally do it? Can they finally do it? They go to the final and then they pull it off. But I feel there's going to be even more weight on their shoulders to run it back. Yeah, you talk about Natasha Cloud, and we didn't even talk about Jonquel Jones. Right. I think those two are going to be the reason that the Liberty end up winning this game. Yes. As far as the future goes, we're going to have to see how good this Indiana Fever team really is. The matchup that I am more excited about is Sabrina and Caitlin Clark, just because Sabrina hasn't gotten off to the start that we thought that she was going to get off to, but she is a very competitive woman, and we know she loves to take on a challenge anytime she has the opportunity to do so. And Caitlin Clark does pose challenges. She shoots the ball from half court. She does a lot of great things for her team. She's going to rebound. She's going to get assists. She's going to do a lot of that stuff. And people are probably already pegging her as a better player than Sabrina Ionescu is. And I think Sabrina doesn't like that. Two people who probably should have won NCAA championships, but they didn't have the opportunity to do that. So, the matchups are going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this game. Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot about both teams in terms of that championship caliber and conversation. But look, WNBA, they've got some interesting momentum swings when it comes to the halfway point of the season, and that's not with the Olympics embedded in it. And with the new team, the Valkyries entering in the mix and stuff like that, it's going to change the dynamic on a few things. So I'm not going to count out the Fever, but the Liberty made enough moves, and they've got enough girls firing on the right cylinders to make it extra competitive. Well, this has been Hold My Banner. Thank you for letting me crash your party. I'll hop back on when Travis is on, but make sure you catch Hold My Banner Tuesdays and Thursdays 1 to 2 p.m. Let us know your thoughts on the outfits and so much more, but make sure that you continue to join us on Hold My Banner here on NESN.